It's August now, arguably the hottest month of the year, and while it sucks that summer is halfway over, some movies have been begging for a rewatch, and so here's a couple of recommendations to close out summer of 2025 strongly. And in a way, some prep work for the lovely fall, and to just get excited for the Halloween season. Oh, and it goes without saying, this isn't a ranking of any sort, so these are in no way in an order from best to worst or vice versa. For number 1, it's It from 2017, it's Pennywise, it's Bill Skarsgård, you know the iconic yellow rain jacket, and no, I don't mean this one, even though that one's iconic too. This film is super recognizable from Tim Curry's version, which was adapted from Stephen King's novel, and yet this film still somehow knows how to make you uncomfortable with memorable performances from Finn Wolfhard, Jaden Martell, Jeremy Ray Taylor, Nicholas Hamilton, hell, even Javier Botet's in this damn thing. 7 young outcasts in Derry, Maine are about to face their worst nightmare, an ancient shape-shifting evil that emerges from the sewer every 27 years to prey on the town's children. Banding together over the course of one horrifying summer, the friends must overcome their own personal fears to battle the murderous, bloodthirsty clown known as Pennywise. The aesthetic of this film just screams summer, like riding your bike around the cul-de-sac and hanging around with your friends, getting into shenanigans because of course you just have to, feeling like the outsiders since this is a weird bunch to say the least. The face-offs between Pennywise and our small but mighty heroes are fun and dark. In general, this movie has a lot of dark subtext, but it never feels overbearing and depressing because everyone is so charismatic. What more can you really ask for in a summer flick that also has plenty of good scares and loads of world building? Second in the list is The Descent. Despite seeming to have a fall or colder backdrop, this movie is literally one of the sweatiest movies I've ever seen. I convinced myself this is still an early summertime vibe because friends going into the wilderness and doing fun outdoor activities just feels like summer. A year after severe emotional trauma, Sarah goes to North Carolina to spend some time exploring caves with her friends. After descending underground, the woman finds strange cave paintings and evidence of an earlier expedition, then learn they are not alone. Underground predators inhabit the crevices and they have a taste for human flesh. You have a compelling lead, interesting and personable friends, absolutely all-star jump scares and moments of suspense. There's so many claustrophobic built-up moments where the setups get tighter and tighter and tighter to where this is one of the most uncomfortable films to date. It's easily one of my favorite horror films that I come back to every now and then, and it's not hard to see why. It's possible to make a good dirty film. I mean, what else can summarize this movie better? X is such an important film for a multitude of reasons. The idea that this film uses the stigma of the sex industry as a parallel or metaphor for horror, or more specifically slasher films, to prove a point is brilliant. It dresses the movie in the most cliche, typical ways so you can easily identify the atmosphere of this film, but it's the subtext where the movie truly shines. There's so many lines in this film that can each be their own thesis statement, because another theme that this movie explores is the fear of one day we're gonna be too old to have sex. Age is such an important theme in this film, and it perfectly illustrates it with showing the parallels between Pearl and Maxine, and to this day I'm not ashamed to admit that I didn't even realize that Mia Goth was playing both roles. Mia Goth is so good that I bought that these two were different actors, but Pearl's tenacity to reject the thought that she's too old to enjoy herself is so compelling and devastating regardless of the chaos that she ultimately creates. It's really such a sad story because it's just her instinct that as a human we all have, and the body no longer being able to keep up with is so scary. That's all without saying how fun this movie is. A common criticism, in which at times I partially share, is that slashers may start strong but lose their gas fairly quickly and can become boring, but X is gripping throughout the entire thing. All the characters are likable in their own way, they each feel like people and aren't just fodder to be inevitably killed. Like, that's one of the craziest parts of the film. You quickly realize they are all basically gonna die, and yet you still find yourself attached to these characters, which is just insane. There's clever foreshadowing, smart dialogue, interesting character dynamics, laughs, and moments of sadness all packaged in
one goddamn fucked up horror picture.
As a whole, I really do like Ty West's X trilogy, but without a doubt, X is my favorite of the three. For number 4, The Uninvited. A lake house setting is among the ultimate settings for a summer flick to watch. Throw in some absolutely bonkers twists and turns, and you got a solid chance of having a great time. It is an American remake of A Tale of Two Sisters, which is a superior film, but that one is way more intense and unsettling, and the setting is entirely different. After spending time in a psychiatric facility, young Anna finds significant changes in store at home. Her widowed father is now engaged to her mother's former nurse, Rachel. One night, the ghost of Anna's mother appears, screaming for revenge and accusing Rachel of murder, her, and so Anna and her sister Alex start to investigate, but they may be unprepared for the lethal battle of wills that ensues. It's a really enjoyable movie with the film constantly manipulating you and baiting you that while for the most part the pieces of the puzzle are almost put together and you think you know what's going on, there's just something off. Weird behavior at times that leaves you really questioning everything. And with such a fun twist and good payoff, this is an easy summer watch. Next up, it was kind of a tough choice between picking Final Destination 3 and the original I Know What You Did Last Summer, but because of how much of a bad taste that requel left on my mouth, and it still lingers, and because Bloodlines was actually awesome and checked off everything I wanted present from a new entry in that franchise, I went with Final Destination 3. 6 years after a group of high school students first cheated death, another teen has a premonition that she and her friends will be involved in a horrifying roller coaster accident. When the vision proves true, the student and her fellow survivors must deal with the repercussions of cheating the Grim Reaper. You know the shot, everybody loves it. I feel like generally the Final Destination films are liked, and each time they know how to make a super memorable, complicated, over-the-top premonition that never feels unoriginal or boring. Where characterization is sorely lacking in these films, just great kills, quirky as hell characters, amazing big budget premonition sequences, and hysterical build-ups that make you chuckle even when someone is getting eviscerated are just a few of the great things about these films. Being the third in the franchise, you'd think that they'd start drying up on ideas and the gimmick would get doled out, but I like horror gimmicks, and the idea of Death just being a mischievous clown and setting up these elaborate sequences always works for me. The sauna scene is iconic, the drive-through sequence, albeit weirdly set up, is also amazing, and even the gym kill and nail gun kills are among my favorite kills of the entire series. The Strangers Prey at Night is easily the most fun out of this franchise. You have likable characters with quirky family dynamics. You have the lovely Christina Hendricks, Mad Men alumni. She's fantastic in everything she does. It's a crime we don't see her in more projects, but it's great to see her in a horror film. I know she's also on that show Hacks, which is on my list to watch, so looking forward to that. You also have Martin Henderson in this film, who not only shows up twice in this list thanks to his, renting an Airbnb with misleading information, but he's obviously in the American remake of The Ring. So the man has two classics under his belt, since X certainly will have that classic status. Strangers Prey at Night has some suspenseful moments, since home invasion-esque movies, if done well, are able to feel unsettling, at least a little bit. But the film's tone is also not as bleak as the original, and I think it works for it. It's faster paced, it's a whole family instead of just a couple, so more unique scenarios occur thanks to that, as well as more environments, and there's generally more levity too. Strangers Prey at Night wants you to know it's not taking itself seriously unlike the original, and that pool sequence is probably the best thing that has come out of this series outside of...
Because you were home.
Because it's trying to emulate the 80s aesthetic, it also has the flashing colors, which is always fun. Overall, it's hard to have a bad time with this one, and road trips just scream summertime activities. Eli Roth's Hostel is a must considering you think about vacations, going away with friends on random adventures, except when it becomes a traveler's worst nightmare. Best friends Josh and Paxton decide to spend summer after college graduation on an all-out backpacking trip across Europe. While stopping in Amsterdam to indulge in their tastes for drugs and sex, they meet Ollie, a like-minded traveler from Iceland. When the three boys set off to investigate enticing rumors of a Slovakian hostel in a city populated by lusty women, they find themselves drawn unwittingly to a deadly game. Eli Roth really single-handedly distorted people's willingness to stay at hostels for a while. I know it's really a tentpole in terms of being one of the pillars of torture porn films, but that's exactly the point. This film is one of the first to do it when it wasn't so overdone, and in its own right, it's one of the best to do it. You can't forget the infamous Achilles tendon reveal that it's just so gnarly, and honestly, even the conversation between Paxton and the American client is really chilling because of how much the client is so gleefully expressive when talking about the feeling of getting to kill and torture. Eli Roth really has a demented mind, and one that horror fans can always enjoy. And keeping on that foreign background aesthetic, Wolf Creek has a super hot Australian setting which is top tier. Since this was an early 2000s film, this also had the based on real events thing going on, which also adds a little bit of sizzle to the film. Three road trippers in remote Australia who are plunged into danger when they accept help from a friendly local. The three friends in their 20s set out to hike through the scenic Wolf Creek National Park in the Australian outback. The trouble begins when they find out that their car won't start and they run into a local bushman named Mick Taylor. Mick Taylor is played masterfully by John Barrett. There's tons of awesome nail-biting sequences, absolutely insane brutality, very immersive environments where you can can tell this is not shot on some backlot at a studio. But Mick Taylor is the thing to be remembered from this film. He's so dangerous and versatile and just straight up evil. He's such a cold antagonist that proves people like that in real life are the real monsters. Aside from that, there's good chemistry between the characters, good banter as well, and honestly, I love films like this because it takes a big old dump on arguments of there's power in numbers. This film shows how it can still be extremely scary and hopeless even if numbers are in your favor, especially when faced with the wild Australian outback. Rob Zombie is notoriously known for being such a complicated and divisive director. I'd probably say my favorite film of his is The Devil's Rejects. Obviously, the original established this world, and while most of his movies lean way too much into the music video gnarly, ultra granular aesthetic, I think Devil's Rejects finds a more complete balance of style and substance. Zombie is a great filmmaker and he has such a confident way of bringing his vision to life, but he really needs someone to reel him in sometimes and tell him no, that's not necessary. After a raid on a rural home of the infamous Firefly family, Otis and Baby manage to flee the scene. Heading to a remote desert motel, the killers reunite with Baby's father, Captain Spaulding, played by the late great Sid Haig, who is equally demented and intent on maintaining their murder spree. While the trio continue to torment and kill various victims, it's only a matter of time before the sheriff in town slowly closes in on them and gives them their poetic last dance. Allegedly. You have more crazy time with Otis and Baby. They are even more insane and nefarious than in the original, and because of that, you get a lot of good sequences, so much tension at various points in the film, and all with a scorching hot Texas background. I feel like you won't forget Kahiki's Palms Motel once you visit it, which, while obviously severely understaffed, with those three, there's no happy ending in the best way possible. And lastly, Ari Aster came in hot with Hereditary and permanently scarred many folks with his truly disturbing debut film. So naturally, what's the next best thing to do after that? Well, he made Midsommar, and I personally love Midsommar. I think it's deeply unsettling. The themes about trauma and peer influence, toxic relationships are all so vividly clear. That's all without saying how it's directly inspired by one of my favorite films of all time, The Wicker Man. Not the Nick Cage one, obviously, but the Christopher Lee one. A couple travel to Sweden to visit their friend's rural hometown for its fabled Midsummer Festival. But what begins as an idyllic retreat quickly devolves into an increasingly violent and bizarre competition at the hands of a pagan cult. I'd love to say the lovely Florence Pugh carries the film with such a powerful and sympathetic performance, but honestly, everyone is great. All the characters are messed up in their own ways. You have the hot Swedish setting. The movie somehow manages to be so uncomfortable while 99% of it is shot during the day. Somehow being almost always during daytime doesn't stop the film from getting under your skin in more ways than one. And topping it off with such a cold, manipulative ending is the best way to feel like it's summer, but it's almost time for those spooky vibes. And that's it. As much as I'm enjoying the summer, I'm excited for the fall. And I feel like these are solid films that don't let me rush through the summer season, but also remind me that the best time of the year is right around the corner. But that's it for me. I'd appreciate a thumbs up, subscribe, and sincerely yours, Anthony.